Welcome back to the Bit by Bit podcast. In today's episode, I'm joined by Daniel Prince, the author of Choose Life. I really enjoyed this one. I've cut it into 2 parts because we had a very long conversation about a variety of different topics. I hope you enjoy. Right, so we should be recording now.
Okay.
I should just...
And feel free to ask absolutely anything. There's no topic we can't discuss.
Yeah. Okay, doke.
Were you an annoying Bitcoin mate down the pub?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was. And it was more, I keep myself to myself mainly. So I have a small circle of friends. But the ones that I was seeing, could feel myself thinking, I'm reading their body language.
Mm-hmm. That's switched up.
They have no interest in what you're talking about. They don't understand what you're talking about. And they're just looking to change the subject. So, and then for the first sort of 6 months to a year, I was like, well, I'll ignore that because I care deeply about these people. And I genuinely believe if they don't make a change, they're going to suffer. And then about another 6 months went and I just thought, no, you just have to stop. You have to do your own thing. And if they're interested and if things start going bad, at least they can turn to you and say, all right, what do I do? So yeah, that was part of it. I thought, I want to talk to people. I want to meet other people who are involved in this, because otherwise sort of feel a bit like everyone's talking about the Kardashians or just like politics about Brexit. And I'm like, if only you knew, if only you could understand this, you would see past all this nonsense and you were wasting your time.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel lonely sometimes?
Yeah.
It's weird, right?
Yeah, it is weird. It's really weird.
Because you're still around all of the people that you've grown up with, possibly, and understand them deeply, and the people that you want to understand more than anyone else in the world are your friends and your family, and you can see you can unlock the future for them because this is the rabbit hole I've been in for 5 years, and just having a conversation with my parents about it this weekend, and I can see the glaze over, and there's no one I want more to help understand, but then they don't. And then, like you say, so yeah, it's a bit of a lonely existence being Bitcoin.
It is
down the pub.
I think that's the reason it was like, well, you have to make changes. It's going to be horrible just to be lonely for the next 5 years or however long it takes for this to go a little bit more mainstream. And then it's not actually exciting. It's exciting now when it is on the fringe, weird sort of, it's such a small community. And I thought, well, I sort of lurked on Twitter for a while in the background. I went through a long stage of being really, really concerned about what if everyone knows that I have it? What if everyone, because, OPSEC and all of this kind of stuff. And then I just thought, well, if I'm upset about some of the things that are going on in the world and I think that there is a solution, it's not going to fix everything, but yeah, there's a lot this can fix. We should really speak out. And if we're scared of our governments and scared to actually say, well, we own Bitcoin, why? Like, what are we doing? Like, we're just going, we want a better money. What's so bad about that? Yeah. But there's this fear in the back of your head, and it's like, oh, you can't say that. Oh, no. And I just got to a stage where I thought, well, fuck it. I'm just going to just say what I want. And then hopefully I find some interesting people who think the same, and that's it.
I've had the same thought processes. It's like, should we be even forecasting on Twitter, for example, or anywhere? Like, how a lot of the mainstream crypto guys, Bitcoin guys, I don't got to get that word out of my vocabulary, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Not crypto.
Yeah.
And after their name, they put the keys and they put all these little symbols. And,
January 3rd, 2009.
Right, exactly.
I'm
like, that would be so easy for somebody just to do like an algorithm, like check who's got that symbol.
Yeah.
Bang, they all own Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Bang, they're on a spreadsheet somewhere.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure we are.
Right.
We will be.
So should we be scared of that or not? And to your point, there's nothing illegal going on, so...
Yeah. And even if it is illegal, what's illegal and what's immoral is completely different. It was illegal for women to vote. It's illegal for blacks and whites to use the same bathroom. You look at that today and you go, that's disgusting.
Yep.
But it was the law. And there's lots of things that are the law that are wrong. And like, if no one stood up then, it wouldn't have changed. And if we don't stand up now, it's the same thing. So I've kind of come to peace with it, that it's like, okay, you probably at some stage you're going to get hammered. But if you do, at least you're doing it for a good cause. Or at least I believe I'm doing it for a good cause. We could all be complete lunatics. We could all be wrong. We could all be wrong. I mean, we just could be, but I can't see how we are. But yeah, that was why. And it was trying to find a niche within the industry. I was like, this is the industry I want to work in. There's no question, definitely. Everyone who's involved in Bitcoin, or most people, don't spend money. I've noticed that. Frugal. Even people with a lot of money just don't spend it. They're more long-term thinkers. So selling art to them, probably not the right market. I didn't want to go into a salesy role, you know, or like into some crypto-y fundy nonsense. It has to be something I believe in. And I was struggling with anxiety quite badly, or have done for a long time. And I thought, well, this is, again, it pushes me out to have to meet people, to have to do the things that I'm uncomfortable with. So yeah, that was why. That was why. It's been good so far. I've enjoyed it so far.
And how do you feel as though, since you've been like investing in Bitcoin, well, this is like me interviewing you.
We're just having a conversation. Yeah.
How has it like changed your time preference? As like Saifedean, who says in his Bitcoin
Saifedean's.
Yeah.
Weirdly, I've always had this mindset.
Right.
Which is why I think I got it. I started saving every single penny that I ever earned and started businesses from 9. So I've always had that. I'll never buy new clothes. I never buy flash things. I never spend money on going out on a night out. I'll be working.
Yeah.
And I just worked for years and years and years and years and saved until I could buy property and then expanded. And it's always been, I've always thought that way. So that part came naturally. It's made me even more like that though, for sure. It bends your mind because you have to start converting everything into, well, how many sats is that?
Right.
Like even parking today, I was like, right, you know, how many? Yeah.
It's very difficult to convert that. It's, yeah, very, very difficult.
Have you found the same with yourself? Or?
Yeah. The biggest switch for me was, you know, being a father of 4 and having left a career in 2014.
That was in the city. You were working in the city.
I was working in Singapore.
Oh, in Singapore.
So yeah, in Singapore for 15 years. That's where I built my career. Yeah. In foreign exchange, would you believe? You know,
I knew.
Remember that old money?
Yeah.
Dollars, yen, all those funny fiat currencies. I was actually sitting at my desk. I remember the day like Bitcoin started, and everybody was sitting there like, "What the hell is that? Oh, it's going to be this new digital currency."
Yeah,
like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Who cares about that? That's a scam. That's going to die.
Yeah.
You know, it's dollars, it's euros, it's yen.
Yeah.
Back to work we go, guys. And you'd sit at your desk 10, 11 hours a day, chained to it, you know, putting through orders for the UBSs and the HSBCs and the Barclays and the Goldmans of this world. And, you know, that was my existence in total for about 17 or 18 years, 15 years of which in Singapore. But I reached the brick wall. I read, actually, I'm going to have to shill Tim Ferriss.
Go for it. Shill all you want. We're all about shilling on this.
I don't know. Have you ever read The 4-Hour Work Week?
Do you know what? I haven't, but I have been told by 2 people that I really respect, you have to read that.
Right.
So it is on my list of things. I'm going through at the moment my Nassim Taleb books, and then once I finish those, it'll be that.
Yeah. Yeah. So a friend of mine, I'd had lunch with him. We caught up over lunch. And we were just probably like putting the world to right. And I was just like saying things to him like, mate, I can't go back there. Like, I literally did not want to leave that lunch table and have to walk back to the office. And he said, get The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. I'm like, really? Like a self-help book? Like, what the hell? Honestly. And I don't know what, I did it. I got back to the desk. I found the nearest bookshop. I called them. I reserved a copy. I went down, I bought it. I started reading it on the train on the way home. And that was it. Like, I was addicted to that book. I read it like 4 or 5 times in as many months.
Oh, really?
And so I started reading it in November 2013. And by March 2014, quit my career, taking the kids out of school. We'd sold all of our stuff. We'd given notice to our landlord. Wow. And we were gone. Like, it was that quick. It took a little time, obviously, for my wife to understand I was like, definitely, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I wanted to start putting that book made me start realizing, time is the ultimate currency.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree.
And as a father of 4, my kids, my oldest one at the time was 8 and then 6, and we had 2 twins that were 3 years old. Right, this has been a blur this last 8 years. And I spent most of that blur chained to a desk doing stuff I don't particularly like for people, that were very uncompromising and, unapologetic and very fast-paced, stressful atmosphere, which is great when you're a young man.
Yeah.
Family life is not that conducive. So we left and we started to travel. And then, so my mindset started changing then. But huge anxieties over the social construct and the judgment around, you being an irresponsible parent.
Yeah.
Taking your kids out of formal education. There's a whole rabbit hole we can go down there.
I listened to a podcast you'd done, what was it, the superhero?
Yeah.
And I was listening to that, and I, again, completely agree. I think the school system is so outdated. It's embarrassing. I hated it. I can't even imagine what kids today are thinking. They must just sit there thinking, what is this?
What is the point?
What is the point? And by the sounds of it, your kids are learning, they're wanting to learn. Which, that's how you learn.
That's the biggest takeaway I got from the whole experience, having them out of school for almost 3 years, was that school is excellent. Very, very good. Almost 100% pass rate on killing the love of learning in kids.
Yeah.
That's all it's good for.
Crushing their soul and dreams. Yeah.
Absolutely. You leave school with zero love of learning.
Yeah.
And you kind of think to yourself, well, thank God that's over. I don't have to learn anything ever again.
Yeah.
And then you get to the workplace and then you find you just learn on the job. And you're actually really good at some stuff, which you'd been told your whole schooling career that you were probably really bad at. And it's it's this crushing system.
It really is. Yeah, I agree. But there is that perceived. Did you get a pushback when you were talking to family and friends about it?
Yeah. It was like 85% would be like, you're crazy. Like, what are you doing? There was obviously, and that comes from a place of concern.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They're not trying to be nasty. They genuinely believe what they've been told.
Yeah. Genuinely concerned that you're not doing the best thing for your kids and for your family and for your career, right? People will be saying, but you spent 17 years building this career. Why walk away now? What's the next level? Yeah. I honestly don't care. I just don't want to be there anymore. I want to be with my family. But it was very, 75, 85% were like, don't do it. You're mad. A lot of judgment, especially around, even when we were traveling around with the kids, you'd meet people on your travels and they'd be like, you're doing what? Like, why aren't they in school? Well, we kind of consider this as school. They're out, they're meeting people, different cultures, different languages, different sights, sounds, smells, experiences. They're with us the whole time. They're learning. One person said to me recently, she homeschooled, world schooled all of her kids, all 4 of her kids, 3 of which have sailed through university. Never went to a school ever, walked into university, signed up on the day, aced all of their exams in the field that they wanted to do, and then will go on and chase a career in that particular path because they know what they want and they have this love of learning. They can just smash it. She said to me, once we switched our mindset from we're raising adults, not kids, everything changed for them. And I was like, wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
Kids are so smart. They're so smart, and they think about things in a completely different way to us because they haven't got all these boundaries that have been, all these walls that are put up. So sometimes you talk to a kid and they'll come up with something you think, good point. Good point. Why didn't I think of that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Whereas most people are like, well, that's not how it's done. This is what we do and this is how we do it. And that is the social order of things because that's what we're brought up believing in school. So back to the mindset question. How did when I started investing in Bitcoin, I'd started following it. I don't know if you've ever watched or signed up Real Vision. Have you ever heard of that?
Raoul Pal.
Yeah, Raoul Pal and Grant Williams.
Yeah.
Now Grant Williams lived in Singapore, and Grant and I got to know each other as he was launching Real Vision with Raoul. And I remember sitting down with him, and I'd watched they'd been going for 3, 4, 6 months, I can't remember. And everything was bearish, all about stocks and shares.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Grant, can't you find anybody bullish about this? He's like, we don't even ask leading questions. We just, and everybody has the same opinion. And I said, and what about Bitcoin? He's like, wait a couple of weeks. We're dropping some Bitcoin videos.
Oh, right. Okay.
And they were the real early ones. And it could have even been Tour de Mista that was one of the early people on there. And then they started interviewing some
Tour's really good, actually. Yeah, really good.
Incredible. And for a young man as well.
How old is he?
Oh, God, he still looks 15.
Yeah, he's
so if you ever listen,
no, he knows his stuff. It's very impressive. Yeah.
And then they had Trace Mayer on as well.
Yeah.
And I started watching these videos and these interviews, and I started looking into it. And I didn't even look at the mining or anything like that. And so I started just buying some. Let's see where this goes. This seems like a great hedge against the financial system that we have at the moment. And it's only in the last about 6 months, I would say, so a good 5 years into this journey, that the whole low time preference kind of thing is clicking. And my anxiety over raising my family, and my anxiety over, do I have enough money to see us out, fiat. I'm still in the fiat kind of mentality.
We have to be really at the moment.
My anxiety just started going down because I had this store of value, which I completely understand now. And it's this is a high percentage chance that my family's going to be set now and okay. And my kids are going to be able to work on stuff that they truly love and truly interested in, rather than race themselves into the city and take the first job that comes along and get trapped and painted into a corner 20 years down the line. And that's how my mindset, and that's what Bitcoin has done to me.
And that's such a nicer outlook when you're thinking about what your children are going to do, them doing something they're passionate about, rather than that rat race. Because we all know, everyone who's done it knows it just kills you.
Yes.
When I left my last job, I hated it. I just hated it. I would just come home, put my music on, and I'd paint all night just to not think. I'd turn my phone off. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't trust anyone. I thought everyone was just an arsehole.
Yes.
And you just thought, what is the point in this? How many more years have I got on this planet? What am I doing? And then once you step away from that and you start doing things where there's passion involved in it, you realise, oh no, people are all right. Obviously there are people who are, who are just terrible, but most people are all right. They're just miserable because they're doing something they hate and they don't even believe in most of the time.
And just surviving, right?
Yeah.
There's no way they can save.
No.
No. You just can't.
You can't. And even if they have the money to do it, then what is there? Stocks, all-time high. Property, unachievable for most people, especially younger people. All the sort of options that they're told by their parents and their grandparents, oh, buy that, or buy bonds. Great. Yeah, what a brilliant investment that's going to be. The outlook for, I think, a lot of, certainly my generation, were just what are we doing? We might as well just go and earn as much money as we can and then just go and enjoy the money. Just go and spend it, go on nice holidays but then you never get off that hamster wheel.
No.
You just work until you're 75, 80,
Yep.
if you ever retire, and then that's it. And then
might have paid a house off along the way.
Maybe. And then what? And then what? Because you're not mobile, you can't go on the holidays that you dreamed of and do the things that you dreamed of. Might have a bit of savings, but what's the point? I think it's going to be a trend that more people are just going to, I think, like you said, 4-hour work week did it for you.
Yep.
Art somehow did it for me, just going, there's more to life. I do what I enjoy. And I think now with the internet, more people are going to listen to podcasts, more people are going to read these sort of books. Because I haven't obviously had a chance to read your book, but you've written one.
Oh, no, sorry.
But,
hang on.
I listened to the podcast, but
I've got your copy.
Oh wow!
Here you go.
Wow!
Sorry,
thank you very
I should
much.
have passed you that before.
Wow! So choose life: the tools, tricks, and hacks of long-term family travellers, world schoolers, and digital nomads. Oh, I like the digital nomads bit. Lovely. I should
just
read
signed
that.
it inside for you.
I've
started putting the Bitcoin price at the bottom.
Very nice.
So all the books,
thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it.
No worries. It's a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me on. It's Finding each other on Twitter is what a great place that is. And most people complain about it. Oh, it's full of trolls and haters. It's like, if you curate your timeline, just curate that list of people and go to the list instead of the timeline, you find amazing people on there.
Yeah, you really do.
And you and I, a couple of direct messages and let's get together.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, it is. It's so powerful. Have you been on it for a while, or are you?
Yeah, I set it up way back and wasn't really using it for much at all. And then just following a few interesting people, and then started following more people around finance, stocks and shares. So I used to be looking at stocks and shares all the time. And I think I put out a tweet about, I haven't looked at the stock market. I literally woke up one day, I'm like, I wonder what the stock market's doing. Yeah. I used to look at it every day, and 6 weeks had gone past. And I'm like, oh my God, there's another piece of the puzzle that's just clicked in because I don't need it. I don't care for it. And that is just, it's rigged. Anybody that doesn't see that, the amount of quantitative easing, QE is, for what I can, an analogy I use is like stacking the card deck at blackjack table infinitely to improve the odds of the house. And that's exactly what's going on in the stock market.
And the house is that 1% or less, less than 1%. And it is, like you say, it's obviously a rigged game, but then no one knows there's another option. So, and, over the last 10 years, it has been one of the better bets has been to park your money there or in property. But so, I mean, that's a rigged game, and property I've come out of because, again, it's just everywhere there was an angle to make money, they close it off. And they go back retrospectively. With property, it's not like it's liquid like with Bitcoin. You can jump in and jump out. If I was buying something, I'm going minimum hold 5 years. You've got to account in your stamp duty. You've got to account in all of these different things. You've got to make sure that if you're leasing it, you have all the right certification and documentation, blah, 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 blah. And there's so much stress that goes with it, and it's so illiquid, and you have to think, well, where are we in the market cycle? If I'm thinking to come out in 5 years to 10 years, is that actually going to work? And then if we have a crash, it's stressful. You don't make as much money anymore, and no matter how well you plan, things can go wrong because of decisions from other people. Yep. So it just...
And, it's interest rates getting manipulated and whatever else. We've grown up probably... How old are you?
30.
Right, okay, so I'm 43, so I'm well ahead of you. But between us, we have grown up in a world, especially in the UK, probably true for the US as well, where in property, they say in Bitcoin, number go up.
Yeah.
Right? Property has just gone one way.
Number go up.
It's just gone one way, right? Yeah. And we've all been tricked into thinking, this is it. This is the golden pot at the end of the rainbow. I own my house and the number go up, and then I just become richer and richer and richer. And it's got to the point now where it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
When you look at the prices.
It is crazy. It is crazy. And it did well for me, and I saw a trend and I jumped on and it worked. But 4 or 5 years ago, I started saying to everyone, I'm getting out of this. You look at it, when you're really involved, you think, this just doesn't stack up. There's something wrong here.
If it corrects, what happens?
Well, a lot of people are going to go under because of their mortgages. We're on the really, really low rates. I remember when I first started getting in, I'd go to these conferences and there were people who they were buying, property prices would go up, they remortgage, buy another one, buy another one, buy another one, buy another one, lease them out, buy another one. Some of these people would go from 4 or 5 to 100 in a matter of years. And then what? When it goes wrong, so you might make a couple £100 on each one buy to let, you got 100. What if it goes the other way? Then what? And then the banks just come and take them. And it's them that's causing the problems in the first place. Yeah. And they know that no matter what happens, firstly, we're going to get bailed out or bail in. And also, everyone who loses their assets, we're going to take them cheap. So, win-win. Not a problem.
We'll take them cheap and we'll fire sell them.
Yeah.
To get some, money back on the balance sheet.
Yeah. I knew there was a problem. I couldn't quite put my finger on quite what it was. Now, after getting so involved with Bitcoin, I'm like, I'm so pleased I started scaling out. I'm so pleased. And I wish I didn't have anything. Because you don't even own your property.
No.
That's the other thing. You learn about extreme ownership in this space. And what do you own?
Yep.
And I always used to think, bricks and mortar, safe as ours is, you own it, no one can take it. It's like, no, you don't own it, the bank owns it.
Yep.
And you are owned by that bank. So you don't own anything, you just,
and they have your money as well.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people miss that point. When your salary is going into a bank, when you give a bank your money, it's not your money anymore.
No.
It's their money. It's a business that you are investing in, and they're taking that and giving it to other people at 10x or something, like a fractional reserve banking. Yeah. It's just like...
You never learn that at school.
What advice would you give to somebody if they're listening to this and they've scraped together that 30 grand deposit or 40 grand deposit over years of toil to try and get on the property ladder?
Lots of people ask me. This is actually one that I answer quite often. And my advice is always hold off, wait for a crash. If you're desperate, if you're desperate to buy something, wait for a crash. Wait for people where there's blood in the streets and people are crying and go and kick them in the bollocks. And I know that sounds horrible because that's probably a family and they've probably lost their home and they've been told, we're all told, get a job, earn enough, buy a house. Yeah, 2.4 kids, get the job, stable, get a car, buy one of these boring people
this
carriers.
Nice linear lifestyle. Yep.
And so they're all told that. And those people are going to lose these homes that they've worked really hard for, but someone's got to buy them. Someone's going to buy them, so it might as well be you. And just tell them, wait for this crash. But I've been saying it for 3 years. I've been saying it is. I keep saying it's going to be within the next 2 years. Definitely. I can't see how it's not. And then those 2 years have passed, and so then people are like, well, what happened to this 2 years? People want to, so they end up buying.
Same with stocks and shares. I've been saying the same thing for 5 years. Like, don't touch the stock market. It's going to crash. And when it crashes, it's going to make 2008 look like an absolute walk in the park.
I know.
But here we are. It gets higher and higher because basically the Fed can just print, or the European Central Bank, whoever, the Central Bank of England, they just print and keep printing and keep printing. And there's nothing we can do to stop that. And, it's just, you're swimming against the tide the whole time.
Yeah.
I would like to say to people, like, if you have scrabbled that deposit together, be brave, hold off, put 10% of what you've saved into Bitcoin, just keep paying the rent. Rent isn't dead money at the end of the day. It is optionality. Yeah. And there could be a time where, you're going to be in a much better position, but it's difficult.
Do you get scared if you say to someone, put 10% of your money in Bitcoin? Because the way I see it is, if number go up, it was their idea. Mm-hmm. No thanks. If number go down, even for a day, they're on the phone.
Oh yeah, I've got a WhatsApp group I've only managed to persuade a few people. Thankfully, my wife and my kids all stacking sats.
Nice.
My two brothers are stacking sats. I'll work on my mum and dad, and hopefully my brothers will work on my mum and dad as well, because once you get that momentum.
Yeah.
And I've got a WhatsApp group with only a couple of friends, and I've called it Blame Princey. That's the WhatsApp group. And of course, it only starts pinging when number go down, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What's happened? Why is this? Is this because of China? Is this, you're like, no, it's just, no one knows. Just wait 10 years. Like I said, wait 10 years. But
I like to think in 10 years time, somebody's going to, send a nice bottle of wine or something. That'd be,
maybe
a big thank you, but, something, right? But
it would be nice.
It's difficult, really difficult for people to have that long-term view. And this comes back to the high time preference and the low time preference mindset, because we've just been attacked by high time preference behavior our whole lives.
Yeah.
From the minute we were born, watching television, that is just high time preference stuff forced down your neck.
New car, clothes, and the lifestyle, and
Now cheap money, right? Cheap money. People are addicted to cheap money.
Yeah.
And I remember you talking about the Cantillon effect. We don't realize just how far down that line of cheap money we are. And it really is just one great big house of cards. Yeah,
it is. But we just, like you said, it's difficult to time it. I think that's probably why the safest thing is just to say 10 years. Because, we don't know. I mean, we don't know how long this nonsense can go on for. It could rip for another 5 years.
Yeah.
It could go for another 10.
Yep.
I don't know how. I'm just constantly shocked, but it could do.
People are waking up, aren't they?
Slowly.
Look at what's going on around the world with the amount of protests against governments in different countries all over the place.
Yeah.
And it's only going to be a matter of time before people realize, just buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, take the power away. Take the power
It's
away
like
from
the ultimate silent protest.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. But yeah, it's that education, and it takes so long. I don't know. I mean, so you started buying, and then what? It took a couple of years for it to, or 3 years for it to really sink in. Although I read your article, and I was like, because when we first spoke on Twitter, I was like, oh, okay, worked in the city, he's traveling, like, be really interesting to get him on, but didn't know if you really would understand anything about Bitcoin. And I thought, well, and then you sent that, and I was like, oh, okay, no, he knows his shit. I read that, I was like, yeah, absolutely, couldn't agree with this anymore.
That was the one about complaining about the usability of Bitcoin, is that right?
Yeah.
Or crypto in those days. Yeah.
And saying basically be thankful for it.
And I still am.
Yeah.
I listen to all of the podcasts. There's some great ones out there, like Peter McCormack. He's
got some. He's really good as well. I wrote to him a while ago about my art. Took the time to write back. I found that a lot of people would do that. So I had a lot of respect for that. He's obviously a busy guy, and he took the time to write back. And yeah, he's got some great stuff. He really does.
He responded to me as well, and I really appreciate that. And I find this a lot actually with the crypto guys. Sorry, Bitcoin guys. God, man, that's tough.
It's such a horrible word.
It is.
It's becoming such a dirty word.
But some of the people that I've reached out to just been so generous with their time and come back.
Yeah.
Even Nick Saba.
Oh, really?
Responds. He's like, wow, this is. And we got into a discussion about how do we, with our kids, how do we fight? We are fighting a tide of high time preference mindset behavior for our kids. And I want to take that away from them. How do I instill in them? It's so important to save for your future. We got into a little chat about that just on DMs. And I find everybody to be so open, so available, like Marty Bent as well.
Yeah.
Matt Odell.
Matt Odell, I've asked him a few technical questions about BTC Pay Server and a few other bits. Really, really helpful. But that's what's so great. That's what's so great about, like you're saying, the usability is not there because it's so early. Be thankful. And everyone's still so nice and helpful because it's so early.
Yes. In
10 years, we won't have that.
No.
It will be like any other industry, normalized. But right now, it's like a core group of people who are really, really passionate about this. And it feels like there's a bit of a, right, we'll all help each other out. No one else is going to help us. Let's all just band together. And it's such a breath of fresh air. It really is. Did you find with Szabo, so he's having a similar problem with his kids, is he? Or like trying to...
It's definitely on his mind.
Yeah.
I've had conversations with a few people about it. I sat Sefer Dianamus's Eco11 course that he runs.
Yeah.
He's running the next one next month, I think, Eco12.
Where's that based?
It's just online.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Just, mate, it's cheap. It's like $100 or something.
Really?
Yeah. You can pay in sats or card or whatever.
I'll pay in card to keep my sats.
Yeah, exactly. Funnily enough, he was charging in sats, and then he had to switch it because you're dealing with hodlers.
No one wants to part with
it. So I sat his course, and it's not like setting a course. He doesn't set homework or anything like that. He just sends an email saying, right, there's going to be a lecture it's 5 p.m. France. 5 p.m. France that you can tune into. Yeah. If you miss it, you just download the audio or the video.
Right.
And then on a Thursday, there's another hour where he updates on the lecture, answers some questions that have been emailed to him, and answers some questions that you might live put in the chat. And I asked him about instilling low time preference in kids. Mm-hmm. And, he said himself, I think his daughter's 3. Mm-hmm. This is something I am so focused on. So focused on, and I want to know what other people are doing. So he has the same questions,
right?
And how do we do this? How do we, as a community, how do we help each other families? Just because that's the next generation. That's what is going to really kick this thing forward. But to get back to Bitcoin's too clunky. I hate this analogy. You can't buy coffee with it. I mean, is that what we are as human beings?
We've just said you can pay for a course in it. Will you? No.
Don't want to.
No. Why would you use the best money on the planet to buy something just a store of value? You use it for a store of value until it gets to a point where it is $1 million or 5 million or 10 million. And then you say, well, okay, I'll buy my coffee with it because that's what everyone does. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter. The thing is, everyone goes in with that buying a coffee idea. And you can only come to the realization that you don't even want to buy a coffee with it after 6 months, a year, or like however long it takes someone to really dig in. So that's always going to be an issue for people in their mind. But it's not that bad. Have you used some of the recent wallets?
No. No, I haven't.
Some of them are pretty, I mean, they're pretty much as easy as Revolut or anything like that.
Right.
I mean, I'd never use them. I just have a play around just because I'm interested to see how it's developing, but they're pretty good.
Right.
They're pretty good.
Which ones are you...
So I downloaded Dropbit.
Right.
That was one of the ones from Peter McCormack's got that as a sponsor. And I thought, I'll have a little...
Can you buy from these wallets?
I think you can actually now with Dropbit, and you can convert straight into Lightning on the app. So you can just literally press like £5, £10, £20, whatever you want to put into Lightning, and it opens up a channel for you. You can use it instantly. It's really easy.
See, Lightning's there tempting you to part with your sats, isn't it? Is that the way you see it? Like,
I see it as there might be some privacy enhancements with it. And I see it as just being more efficient. There's a lot of talk about, for say, between banks or between people settling, they can do all of that sort of stuff on Lightning and just bring the costs down. And I'm going to have an interview with, do you know Mandelduck?
No.
It's like building games with Lightning integration.
Okay.
So it will be, so I'm not a gamer, but where people are gaming and using like Fortnite, things like that, you could integrate it so that you'd have like, right, everyone who jumps in, there's 100 people and the winner takes all. And it might only be 100,000 sats or whatever it is. And you can integrate these things into games and it's instant settlement. So my thought with Lightning is that it might be these weird fringe cases where, I don't know, you've got some kid in India who has access to the local PlayStation and they might be really good at it. They might earn more money playing a game than they would working in a factory for a week. So I think it's these little weird edge cases where you might not be able to do it on chain, but with Lightning, why not? And as it sort of rolls out and people can use it for things like that, I think maybe people don't even know it's Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But they're earning and it's instant settlement. It's like, oh, I have money. And all they have is a smartphone and they don't have a bank account. They don't have access to normal traditional finance, but they're suddenly earning money. And then they can buy things on Lightning from the money they've earned in a game. So
to improve their overall life.
Yeah, so I see it as that kind of thing. But again, I'm not buying anything. So it might be useful for them. It's not useful for me. So I don't use it.
I've got, so I do use Wirex and I use Wirex to buy. If you get the Wirex card, which you do once you open the account, you get crypto back on in-store purchases.
Okay.
Have you ever done that?
I haven't actually.
That is a thrill. When you walk out
Really?
of like Tesco or Sainsbury's or something, you've just spent 70 quid on your week shop. You get a text from Wirex saying you just earned 256 Satoshis. And you're like, yes!
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
Crypto back is...
What's the percent? Or it varies?
1.5%
on all purchases. I will just be addicted to, I'll be buying shit I don't even need.
Right.
Just being like, yes!
Yeah. It's nuts.
Okay, I have to look into that.
Yeah.
Wirex. Yeah, there's a few. There's crypto.com and all these different ones.
And there's one in the US, Lolly, is that right? Or
Lolly,
Fold
Try Lolly and Fold is the other one, but they're not here in the UK.
Right.
I've written to them a few times and been like, when UK? No, not yet. So,
now I need to look into BlockFight. Is that what they're called? Zach Prince?
Yeah.
And their interest.
Interest, yeah.
Now I've got to really like dial down into that and understand whether or not would you be willing to part with your Bitcoin?
Not for me.
This is still a trusted third party aspect,
Yeah,
right?
Not for me.
It's
not for me because I understand the appeal and I think it's really good that there is that optionality. And for some people, they'll be like, yeah, I want to do that. For me, I'm thinking, I genuinely believe that we're going to at least 1 million a coin. I know that sounds mental to a lot of people, but in my head, that is happening. So whatever that is as a percentage, huge, ridiculous percentage from where we are now, what's 6% a year on top for the risk of losing it potentially all? It's like I'm already in probably what people would call the highest risk investment. For most people, they'd say it was the highest risk. Like, you shouldn't put more than 0.5% of your wealth in it. So I don't really want to layer on top more risk with a third party. And I haven't looked into it enough, but I feel like if we have a crash in traditional finance, they're going to be linked somehow because they've obviously got to make that money somehow. So they've got to be doing something with the traditional financial system. So I'm betting it's going to crash and you're betting it's going to crash. So if it crashes and then we lose what we're hedging against because we're trying to get an extra 6%, we'll be like, oh, what will we think? So that's my only concern with it, I think.
I'm going to try and contact Zach and see if I can have a conversation and understand more about it. It's an interesting concept. It is a way that might be able to help you stack sats a little quicker.
Crypto-backed loans, I like the idea of as well. They do both.
They do both. Yeah.
I like the same issues with it, but I think that's really interesting because, some people will have, especially people who are early, they might have a serious amount of Bitcoin. They might say, well, I can take that loan. I could double down. If it's going to zero, as far as I can see it, this either goes to zero or it goes 1 million plus. And I can't see how it's going to zero, but if some weird, I don't know, something, the only thing I can think of is we get hit by a meteor. And then we're all dead anyway, so it's like, well, it doesn't matter. But I can't think of another way that this fails. But so you could double down. That's kind of interesting.
There's another rabbit hole in the warren for us to head down. This is what I love about this space. There's always something new to learn.
There is,
and it's very overwhelming. But for me, I don't need to learn about the coding side of it, the mining side of it. All of this. That's just let that stuff do what it. That's not my forte. But I can learn about the stuff that I can get my head around, and that's what truly keeps you interested in and thinking about it and addicted to it. I mean, you could be listening to 2 or 3 podcasts a day sometimes.
I do. I took a job that allows me to just listen all day, and I would say I will listen to 6 to 8 hours a day on average, and I've been doing that for about 2 years. And it doesn't have to be just Bitcoin related, but it can be finance, it can be anything sort of around it. But yeah, I can easily smash through like 5-6 podcasts a day, or audio books and things like that. And I still know nothing.
Yeah.
Like it is, it's the endless, whatever, once you get to that point, you're like, oh, I understand that. It's like, have you heard about this?
Yeah.
What about this option? And that there's nothing else like it.
I think that's the barrier to entry for everyone.
Yeah,
when I talk to people about it and they're like, well, I don't understand it. It's not for me. I don't get it. It's like, right, okay, I understand that. And it's a lot. You'll never get to the bottom of it. And that puts them off. But then like you say, okay, do you understand your bank account? Oh, of course I do. Yeah. Actually, you don't.
No, they don't. I'd be interested to see what happens with the younger generation. How old's your
My oldest is 14. Then I've got 12 and 9-year-old twins.
And what's their perception of this? 14, like when you're 14, you're pretty switched on.
Yeah. So,
do you want a beer, by the way?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Good story about that, actually. Not a beer, but their perception. Yeah. The main perception is, "Daddy, shut up." Rolling eyes. Oh, he's not going on about that again, is he? But it's just switched recently. So my son, he wrote his Christmas list and he handed it to me. So we're mid-December, obviously. And, the usual stuff's on there. Hot Wheels track and iPad. I'm like, dream on, mate. They know now that, getting all of this, they understand that they can't just ask Daddy for anything because there's nowhere in the world he's just going to go out and buy it.
Yeah.
So there was all this list of stuff. Pretty harmless stuff, Pokemon cards and whatever. And the bottom, number 9, I think it was, he'd written money.
Right.
And then he'd crossed it out. He'd misspelt money. This is the beauty of it all. He'd misspelt money, M-O-N-Y, and then crossed it out and wrote Bitcoin instead.
Oh.
And spelt Bitcoin correctly.
Oh.
And I
proud moment.
Just immediately tweeted it out. I'm like, oh my God, when you realize, your son he wants to stack sats at the age of 8.
Nice.
That, And so
I like that he's crossed out money as well, and that it's not important enough to spell it right. That's nice.
So I started running a scheme with them. They call it the daddy match scheme. And it's like, because they'd get like 10 or 20 euros for their birthdays or whatever else. And my daughters now, they do some babysitting, so they get 10 or 20 euros each time. And they'd come home and I'd say to them, whatever you give me out of your money, and they had money just sitting in their wallets and stuff, right? Go and get what you're comfortable with giving me. I will double it. So if you give me 15 euros, I will immediately double it to 30 euros.
Nice.
And then I will, buy some sats for you on my Wirex app.
Nice.
And keep an updated running spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And that's what we'll do for, this coming year. And
that's a really nice idea, actually.
So they didn't want to really go for it. And it flipped my head upside down. I'm like, but I'm doubling your cash.
Yeah.
Like, and that's a guarantee, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter like the price of Bitcoin or whatever else. I'm still doubling your cash.
Yeah.
But still, like, that act of actually going to get the physical cash and giving it over is very, very difficult.
But it teaches them about investing.
Yes. And that was what I wanted to do. And it only took my oldest daughter about 3 weeks before she came to me and said, Daddy, we've got bank accounts in the UK. I said, yes. And we've had that since I was like born. I'm like, yes. So there's got to be a fair amount of money in there. I'm like, well, for what you need in life, yes, it's fine, but you're not touching that.
Yeah.
That will be,
that's savings. Yeah.
And so she said, well, can't I use some of that to buy Bitcoin? I'm like, well, yes, of course. Right. And so will you double it? And I'm like, yes, of course. Can I do £500? I'm like, oh,
big stacking.
So I had to honour that. I've maxed her out now. So,
I like that.
But perception is slowly changing. And have you heard of the Bitcoin family?
Is this the one with the guy from Holland?
Yeah.
I can't remember his name now. I saw a little clip. It annoyed me, the clip, a little bit, because the way that it was shot, the one that I saw, was sort of painting him as a bit of a loony kind of, that he'd thrown away a career. And I was like, no, he's smart. What he's doing. He's traveling around in a camper van
at the moment,
thing. Yeah.
So,
what's his name?
His name is Didi. D-I-D-I.
That's it. Didi.
Didi Taihutu. And he's a Dutch guy. And yes, he's the famous Dutch family that, well, they are, not him, but they are the famous Dutch family that sold their house and all of their belongings in Holland.
Yeah.
And exchanged everything into Bitcoin.
Nice.
And hit Business Insider and all of these, all of a sudden journalists from all over the world were and every now and then you see on Twitter, like, whatever happened to that, Dutch Bitcoin guy that sold everything, God, it's always negative.
Yeah, of course.
Always negative.
Yeah, because you're an idiot.
Now, Didi and I touched base because last year I was part of an online homeschooling global summit where we run for 2 weeks. It was free for anybody to watch, and we interviewed some incredible people. So Ken Robinson was one of the interviewers.
Right.
Have you ever seen his TED Talk?
Is that the one that was on your website?
Do Schools Kill Creativity?
Yes.
The most downloaded, watched TED Talk of all time. He came on and spoke about the current education system and how it needs to change and how it should adapt. So we had a really good showing for this. And Didi came on and talked about his experience with homeschooling and world traveling and how he almost went to prison because the Dutch government wanted to throw him into prison. So we went through this. So what had happened is he had built this amazing business, sad circumstances. Parents,
his father died.
Passed away. Had a bit of a, as you can imagine, stress, anxiety.
Yeah.
The doctor said you need to calm down. So they went away for 6 months. And then when they got back, I had to go to court because the kids had been out of school for too long.
Yeah.
Almost went to prison, dodged the bullet, sold the house, sold everything. And that was a big wake-up call then.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we're opting out. And we're voting with our money. And there's a whole new financial system happening over here. I want part of that, not what you're running. So as they're traveling around Europe, they come and stayed with us in France. So they camped out on our front lawn. And that was amazing because now my kids are talking to other kids about Bitcoin.
Yes.
And this was a moment, I think, where it's like, wow, you can see the future and you can understand where this is headed. And that was a really nice, I think, for
How
him
many
as
kids
well.
did he have?
3.
And similar ages?
Similar ages to ours, 3 girls. And we would sit down and have long form conversations. Like Didi and I, with our 2 14-year-old daughters, would sit for hours talking about the money system and how Bitcoin can change it. And, they were engaged in it and swapping ideas. One question is, how do we raise awareness? And we asked them. And of course, you need an influencer to start talking about it. And I'm like, oh, really? Like, you think it's going to be that easy if, like, someone like Kim Kardashian starts throwing around the B sign that the younger generation start getting involved?
Not her. Do you know who I it's never going to happen, although he's from Reading, but who I would love to talk to about this stuff, and I think would actually help? Someone like Ricky Gervais. Everything that he talks about aligns, but I don't think he's a Bitcoiner. Someone like that, who you can't argue this guy's smart. He's fucking smart. And he's now hit a level where he's got huge following. And he just says it how it is, and he doesn't give a shit about what the people think. You get 1 or 2 of these guys, things have changed quick. Things have changed quick. Like, you've got Russell Okong and a few of these guys who have stepped in, and that helps. But I think if it's like a Kardashian or something like that, I think people will be like, most people don't care. Like, and it's just going to be a promotion. But if you get someone who says what they truly believe, that's where, like, things will start changing. But it's finding people of that level who want to talk about it.
Yes.
Firstly, they already have the money, so they're sort of further away from seeing real struggle. And secondly, they're so busy with other things. Who has the time? How much?
And for every one of those people, 100, 1,000 other just as influential or famous people that can come out and just denounce it.
Yeah.
It's I put something out the other day. I asked the secret footballer on Twitter if he had ever heard of are there any Premiership footballers that have requested to be paid in Bitcoin or have invested in Bitcoin. And he come back and said he's not really heard of any, but some have been exposed to, like, some of these ICO scams. And so they've been tainted already. That's it. So they're like, whatever. Yeah, it's getting my 50 grand a week anyway, so.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? Because everyone goes in. Did you find, when you first got involved, did you go down that route? I certainly did. Of just ICOs and this and that, and, like, looking at all the different alternatives. Or you're maybe slightly before Ethereum and all of that.
So, my first foray into Bitcoin was my first, and then Ethereum, and then Dash, and then Litecoin. And I've reversed them all. It's all back in just the Bitcoin. Just as my understanding has grown. And when I look at, what is happening, it all comes down to that the decentralized nature of Bitcoin. And, Dash is a company. He's got a great CEO, Ryan Taylor. He seems like a really, really nice guy, but that is a single point of failure. And that's what I'm trying to get away from. And that's like, you look at the stock market, it's like, well, okay, do I want to buy stocks and shares in a particular company? No. That's a single point of failure.
That's how they all are. But when you first get involved, I mean, I had the guy who introduced me to all of this the last person I had on the podcast, and he was like, and this is Ethereum. He'd made a load of money from it, so he was all excited, this is Ethereum and this is going to be the world computer. And I was like, well, that sounds pretty cool. That's going to be interesting. And he was like, and this is Neo, and that's going to be the, Chinese version, and this is going to, you don't really know what you're doing. You're like, well, try it and I'll diversify my portfolio, and you're trying, and I can see how, like, a footballer or someone who's got the money, they're just like, like you say, like, I'll chuck 50 grand at that. That sounds interesting. They're taking advice from someone because like, that's going to be the next Bitcoin. And you can't realize there's not going to be a next Bitcoin until you've gone through all that and lost money with them and realized that, it might be faster, but it's faster because it's centralized.
And how do you feel about, like, what's going on at the moment? I think Peter McCormack managed to rile everybody up on Twitter about, people going onto exchanges and there being this choice of Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, and how
I actually agree with him.
I do. Like,
I get his point. the way that he's gone about it is trying to stir things up. Like, that's his way. And I appreciate that because it does start the conversation. But I do agree. If you go on, there are 2 Bitcoins. There's obviously only one.
Which one is tempting?
Yeah. And it's the cheaper one. When you first get in, you're like, oh, I can buy 100,000 of these things for £1, or I can buy 100 millionth of a Bitcoin for, so you go for what's the cheapest because in your head, you're like, oh, more upside. And people will do that, like Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash. Well, they're both Bitcoin, so surely they're both good. And you buy, that's why I get so annoyed with Bitcoin Cash. Just use a different name. Mm-hmm. It's just, it is going to confuse people. And there will be people who almost there and they've actually decided and they pushed the button and they bought it and then they bought Bitcoin Cash. And like the likelihood is 10 years from now, realistically, the likelihood is it's just going to be worth nothing. Mm-hmm. And I then feel a bit sorry for them because like you were so close to like getting the real.
I mean, I fell for Ethereum. I fell for the whole smart contract thing.
Yeah, me too.
When I was like buying into this whole, everything's going to go to a blockchain and, you can have smart contracts for property rights and all of this kind of thing. And then you just like realize like, that already exists.
Yeah.
That's just an Excel spreadsheet. You don't need to.
No need.
I mean, did you listen to Jimmy's song on Peter McCormack? I'm sure it's his podcast. It's talking about the difference between like marketing. He's basically just saying every other altcoin is just marketing. They've taken what is great about Bitcoin and they're marketing the hell out of some other like tiny little part of it.
But that's why they do well. Because they do have that and Bitcoin doesn't. But I like Jimmy's song. Yeah, again, he just says it how it is.
Yep.
It makes me laugh. He just says it how it is. And he clearly knows his stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to have, they're the people you need in the space to like, it took me a while to find that, find a following on people like Matt O'Dell and Marty Bent and Jimmy Song and people where you go, okay, I've listened to them for a year. The things they've said have either turned out true or they were very much along the right lines. And that there's no sort of buy this, buy that. It's very, don't overstretch yourself. Learn first. The things that you'd actually tell your children or friends, they're telling you. Mm-hmm. And over time you go, well, I trust you more now because you haven't bullshitted me. Whereas when I first came in, it was like, buy this and buy that, and it's going to Lambo. And it's these just dickheads just trying to just sell you a load of crap. And then where are they a year later? No one trusts them anymore, and they're on to the next scam. So
you see how their minds develop as well. Yeah. Listening to a lot of these guys over like the last year or so, and how they've grown into the space, and how their mindset has changed. And Marty Bent was a classic example. Just a few months ago, he started really digging into like the subject of the disintegration of the family, which touched me like immediately. I'm like, yes. I've seen it. I see it every single day. I've managed to reverse it, because I just forced myself to think differently and value time and want to be with my kids. And that, for me, the way I have to quieten my mind down is, because the monkey mind never stops, and you wake up like, who the hell are you? You're not going to work. Why? What makes you think you're so special? You've got to be adding value. Where are you adding value? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And when you switch your mindset to think, right, no, this is a 10-year project, bringing up my kids. That's my job for now. And when I listen to Marty talking about this disintegration of the family and how kids are getting brought up in daycare.
Yeah.
Like pre-kindergarten now has waiting lists. What is that?
Yeah, that's not.
How does that pan out in 20 years?
Can't be good. It
right?
Can't be good. It can't be good. And it's quick. Like, go back 100 years. You wouldn't even dream of it.
No.
Just wouldn't even dream of it. And now it's like it's getting normalized so quickly.
How is it normal that a mother has a baby and after 6 months is back in the office working a 50 to 60 hour job a week?
And someone else looks after their child.
But somehow we've managed to construe it now to such a, like, that is respected.
Yeah. And you go back even 40 years or 50 years and it was one man had one job. They owned their house. They owned their car. They might only go on one holiday a year because travel was more expensive. But the family would be much tighter knit. like you're saying, it's gone from that to they both have a job to now, in a lot of cases, they both have 2 jobs and they barely see their children. And when they come home, they're so tired and they feel so shit about themselves because they're just like, what am I doing in life? Like deep down, maybe it's not at the forefront of their head, but like you must think like when you're sat behind a desk, just punching in data for something that doesn't matter. You get home, you must deep down just think, when I die, I've achieved nothing. I've changed nothing. I've done nothing. And I'm not even seeing my family. So it has to go the other way. Like I can't see, and it always has been that way. So yeah, how has it done this quickly and it's normal? Like you're saying, you trying to step away and trying to do what humans have done forever. And you're trying to go back to that and people think you're mad.
People ask me all the time, all right, Dan, when are you going to get back to real life? I'm like,
I'm living it.
I don't know. Life seems pretty real.
Yeah.
It's,
yeah.
I don't like, what is this? Why do we have this picture of what real life is?
So you've gone from seeing your kids, 1 hour a day in the evening on a weekday?
Probably on average, yeah. Once, yeah.
So now you get to spend your
days.
Because,
I'd be up and gone before they even woke up. And 3 nights a week, I'd come home, they'd already be asleep. And so weekends, if you weren't on some kind of business meeting or, playing golf, taking customers out or something, then, yeah, you'd get to spend a little bit of time with them. But then you just become a lodger in your own home. And you upset the rhythm of stuff, right?
Actually, that's an interesting point.
Because now all of a sudden, my wife, we decided we want you to be at home, so to bring up the kids because it's vital that you're around for the kids.
Yeah.
And it just causes a big conflict between husband and wife when if I get home at 7 o'clock at night, kids are just about to get into bed, daddy walks through the door.
Hype them up.
Oh my God, mate, forget it.
Yeah.
And how many people that might be listening to this, and then you get into an argument or kind of a bad situation where, I just wanted him to go to sleep and you walk home.
Yeah.
I just busted my ass to get home so I could see him before they went to bed. And it causes all this friction, especially at the weekends. You feed them at the wrong time or you bath them at the wrong time and that knocks out their rhythm. They're very creatures of habit at a very small age. That's very important. And when the mother is at home, she works on that. You have no idea. You feed them the wrong thing at the wrong time. Yeah.
Just cause carnage. So they've got to be cleaned up. Yeah.
So, it's interesting to have heard Marty talking about that. And it was on an interview that he was having with Trace Mayer about it. There's something going on as well, in the space, which, is probably not that noobs are going to be interested in at all. But, how do you feel about this whole argument at the moment about running a full node? And already this seems to be this is a brand new community, right? 10 years old, 11 years old.
Yeah.
And Trace Mayer the other day on the podcast was talking about, you have like, 3 levels.
Citizen, second class citizen. Yeah.
And now all of a sudden I'm like, what? We don't, are you already segregating the citadels?
There's a few things that I don't agree with that he says, but I think his point is be whatever class citizen you want, but if you really want extreme ownership, run a node. In the same way that, if you really want to know that you own your Bitcoin or you control your Bitcoin, have your own keys. And I get his point, but some people, especially when they're just coming into the space, at the moment, it's just it's a lot of messing around to do it.
Yep.
A lot of people who are first getting in, they might say, okay, well, I'm going to chuck a couple $100 into it. What are they going to do? Chuck a couple $100 in it and then spend £400 on a novel.
Right.
Or one of these because they're not I know they're like, oh yeah, well, you can just run your own node and you just spin one up and you go into command line and do this. And it's like, no, because most people can't code. Most people don't understand what you are talking about.
Nope.
The level at which most people can operate is buy a box, plug it in, press start, that's it. And anything that's more than that It's too much. Like, it will happen. Like, I'm sure even a year from now, they'll be half the price, and it will just be like you spin one up, you just press run, or there'll be an application you can download on your phone, or there'll be some advancement that will make it easier. But when people get annoyed at people for not running a full node, it's like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Like, the whole point in Bitcoin is do what you want, take control of your own life. So then to say that and then say, but you have to run a full node, it's like, no, because now you're going against your whole ethos, which is do what you want and control your own life. So obviously it's the goal is to do it. If you've got $1 million worth of Bitcoin and you're not running a node, pretty stupid, because it makes the network stronger and you're in full control. So it'd be crazy to not say like, okay, I'm going to spend a couple £100 to run a node, and literally you have a box and plug it in. Like, it's not that hard. But if someone's they're new and they're doing a couple £100, so what?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on it?
I was saying, mirror that sentiment. I'm not at the place yet where I don't think I need to run a node. I'll look into it. I think 6 to 9 months down the line, there'll be something off the shelf, which is very easy. In fact, there's a company that I contacted. I will find them because they're looking at doing something mobile for those people that travel. With Bitcoin comes digital nomadery, right? So how can you run a full node if you are on the go all the time? And especially if you're moving around from Airbnb to Airbnb, how can you keep that going? And there's a company,
BTC Pay's the other one that actually, when you run that, it runs a node for you.
Right. Okay.
So, because I saw you'd put something up where you had a place in Thailand.
Yes.
You were talking about renting. Yeah. They look really nice, actually.
Yeah, thank you.
I sadly opened it up, and my fiance was next to me. She's like, "Can we go now? Can we?" I was like, "No, we've got to stay."
Yes. Not when what would you rather do? Buy 2 flights for £1,000 or stack some sats?
Yeah. Well,
these are conscious decisions people are making. So Nimble Node is the name of that company.
Node.
So keep an eye on those for they said it's all in like early stages at the moment. They'll be launching something in the next few months. But so that that site that I put together, Airbnb Bitcoin, that came out of the fact that I put it together about a year ago, and it's got absolutely zero traction. And I put it together because I figured there's a need for people out there. There's a big traveling Bitcoin community who like Diddy, for example, lives on Bitcoin. He's all in on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
He needs to find accommodation and flights and whatever else. And there are people doing that, like Traveler, for example. Yeah. You can book hotel rooms now. There are different flight companies. He can live Bitcoin or Litecoin, I think he uses as well.
Right.
And I was thinking, well, I would accept Bitcoin as rental.
So would I.
But I would accept Bitcoin as rental, like cheaper. I will give you a discount if you give me Bitcoin, because I'm convinced.
Yeah. 5 or 10%.
Yeah. Yeah. So I put the website together and I threw it up and I threw it out there, and nothing came of it. And then Matt Odell was on the podcast with Stephen Livera the other day, and right towards the end of the podcast, Matt Odell was saying, what's going to drive this more is the merchants. You're going to see more merchants accepting discounts for Bitcoin.
Yeah, he's absolutely right.
100% that's going to happen.
He's absolutely right.
And I was thinking, that was my site.
Yeah.
So I called it back up again, and I just jigged it around a little bit, changed it from crypto-friendly accommodation to Bitcoin. And I think I've got to fiddle around with like the discounts. He was nice enough to retweet it out. So it got like 60 or 70 hits that day, but still nobody has come forward. I still think, like you and I have discussed, people prefer to hodl rather than hodl a day.
Yeah. So. Yeah, for sure. And then it's the thing of, we still don't know how trackable everything is. A lot of people are really privacy focused. So then they've got to think, okay, well, if I want to send Bitcoin there, then I've got to put it through a mixer, and then I've got to send it, and then there's the traceability. So I think a lot of people just buy it, whack it on a Trezor, forget it.
Yep. So the way I figure it is, like, if somebody wanted to rent the place, they could just literally email me. We jump on a phone call, like, we come to an agreement, and I would just email them a Bitcoin address, and that's that.
Yeah,
and that would be fine. Now, I was putting feelers out there the other day, and you responded, have I tried Bisq?
Yeah.
Now, I signed up and downloaded it all, and I was looking into doing it, but there's a very little amount that you can actually do. Is that correct?
There's very low liquidity.
Low liquidity. And I think for the first 2 months that you remember the network, you can only do like $70 worth of Bitcoin.
Something like that. But I think once you've done a few trades, it bumps up. And then if someone who has a key, who's done a certain amount of trades, they can, if they've done a successful trade with you, they can sign with you and then it ups the amount.
I see.
So you can do more. It's still low liquidity. Like sometimes you go on there, there's nothing in the UK. And then sometimes you go on and there's like 5 or 6 people selling.
Right. That's what I've seen.
Yeah. And it will range between the lowest you'll ever find is 0% fee or like at current market price. And then some people will just take the piss and want 30% on top.
Yep.
So it's the waiting game. Like it might be that you have to switch on every day and just have a little look. And it's not a perfect system because you have to send by your bank to their bank. And then what if they're a spook? Or
it seemed really clunky.
Yeah, it is. But then what's the other option is, you know, one of these shitty things like Coinbase or Kraken or one of those. And then it's all KYC. Or you get to know someone who mines and will sell you the coins, or you go to the cash points, but then it's 10% on top. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's probably going to be worth it in the long run to have those coins and not have the KYC on them, but then it's 10%. That's a lot. You know, if you said that to someone in like, when you're doing Forex, you were like, yeah, we'll take 10%. You imagine the abuse you would get. It was just like, no chance. So, it's not perfect, but it sort of sits in the middle of all those. It's not completely anonymous because someone has your banking details and you don't know who that person is. But it does tell you if you've bought from them, it tells you like how many times you bought from them. So you could buy from them once and then not again. So it sits somewhere in the middle. It's not perfect. I'd like to see, who's it who makes Cold Card? CoinKite. Right. They make these little USB sticks. Can't remember what they're called now. Okay. See those little... Hang on,
the Open Dime.
Open Dime. I think it'd be cool if there was like a Bitcoin meetup and when you go to a meetup, you can either have 1 million sats, 2 million sats, 5 million sats, different varieties, and people can go there with those things and you just pay the price of that plus the price of one of those Open Dimes, which I think they work out like 15 quid each. And you buy it, you put it inside your laptop, it verifies if it's real Bitcoin or not, you put it in your pocket, it's like cash. Done. And if you have meetups where once a month people got together and it's people who know each other and it's like a, you know, beer, pizza, Bitcoin sort of chat and people just buy then and exchange then, that is effectively like Wasabi or one of these mixers, but it's just in person. I think that would be quite a nice system, you know, and it's just like
be a nice way to get noobs invested, actually.
It's really good.
And to go along to one of these meetups and just say, like, buy one of those for 20 quid and you've got a little bit of tiny little bit of Bitcoin.
That's
it's already fully loaded in, you know, you
don't have to do anything. Yeah.
Just to get over that little...
You can see if you open it, so you know that the private key's in there, no one's tampered with it. You whack it into the side of your computer or phone, just into the bottom of the phone, and it will just come up with how much Bitcoin's on there. You can spend from that wallet if you want to, but you could pass that, like, I could have one with a Bitcoin on it. I could sell it to you. You could sell it to someone else. They could sell it to someone else. You don't know how many times it's changed hands, and there's no transaction fees. And there's nothing recorded on the blockchain, but it is physical. So effectively, it's physical Bitcoin. We're going to stop the recording there. Join us soon for part 2.